Okay, well, we've only got an hour, so I don't want to leave too long because we've got some brilliant speakers for you tonight and I want to give them all the time possible. My name's Sally Jackson and I'm one of the volunteers at Filia, and it's my huge pleasure to welcome you to our event tonight, Life as a Lesbian Refugee. And this is part of our work to do with Refugee Week, which starts today. It's the International Day for Refugees today, and there'll be loads of events going on over the week. And if you tune in to the Refugee Week webpage, you can find out about all sorts of events, both here in the UK and abroad, that will give you more information about what's happening for refugees. Also, from Filia's point of view, one of the things that we're doing during this week is we've increased the number of books that we have around refugees, books that are either about or by refugees in our feminist library, and anything that's bought through our bookshop via our website over the whole of June, the profits will go to Kakuma. So treat yourself to a little feminist book this month and know that also there's some good coming out of it for our sisters in Kakuma. So for you that aren't aware of Filia, I'm pleased to introduce you to some of the work that we do. We're an international women's rights charity, and we have three key aims. We want to try and build sisterhood and solidarity, both locally, nationally and globally, and also amplify the voices of women, particularly those that are less often heard or purposefully silenced, and also defend women's human rights. And all three of those aims really come to the fore with the work that we're doing with our sisters in Kakuma. We're working internationally for the liberation of all our sisters. And we've been working particularly with our sisters in Kakuma since July 2020, so nearly 2 years now. And we've been lucky enough to get to know the women really well, and alongside them have been really frustrated with the struggle that they have around the conditions in the camp that they live in, the neglect from UNHCR, the threats of and actual violence that they are subjected to, and now the threat of closure of the camp with no concrete planning for their safe relocation. So to talk about all those issues and some of the other pressures for life as a lesbian refugee, we're pleased to welcome 5 brilliant speakers tonight from 4 different countries. So please keep your toes and fingers crossed that the internet holds out for us today. We're going to start the evening with one of our sisters from Kakuma, and we thought it was important to give both the first and the last words to our sisters from Kakuma. So Julia is going to start and talk about what it's like to be living in the camp. She's a single mother. She's a fantastic advocate for all the other women and those that are in Block 13 at Kakuma Camp, and she'll tell you a little bit about the reality of life there. We're then going to pass over to Alyssa, who's from the European Network of Migrant Women, and Adama, who's a lawyer from a Limp Association, and she's been working supporting lesbian refugees in France. We're then really pleased to have one of our own volunteers, Maggy, join us. Maggy now has settled status and now works for 2 organisations, Right to Remain and These Walls Must Fall, to support other refugees and sanctuary-seeking people to get their status here in the UK. And then we'll finish up with Annemarie, who's an asylum seeker who was in the camp, but for safety reasons now lives in Nairobi, and also a human rights defender. We hope to have some time at the end then for some Q&A. So if you've got any questions, if you want to pop those in the chat, and we'll do our best to get through as many as we can. Throughout the event as well, we'll put information about our campaign so that you can find out other ways you can get involved and support the women in Kakuma Camp, and also, if you're able to, information about how you can donate and support them that way as well. But that's more than enough from me. So I'd like to pass over to Julie, and if I could just ask you while the speakers are talking, if you could make sure that you keep your microphones on mute so that we make the best of the bandwidth that we have, and we get to hear all of them. So Julie, over to you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Sally, for giving me this opportunity. I'm so happy to see this big number of women here just to hear about us. My name is Juliet Wabule. I'm a lesbian. It's a human rights defender living in Kakuma Refugee Camp. First of all, I want to thank you, Ma'am Sally, for this great job you are doing for us. And we really appreciate, just know on your heart that without you, we don't know where we would be by now. I came in Kenya almost 4 years back when I faced death threats with my children. And that's when I decided, I found out that I had no life if I didn't run for my life and my children's life. We came in Nairobi, and UNHCR registered us and told us that we should come in Kakuma Refugee Camp, and that's where we are going to have to find safety and everything. But for the last 4 years, we've been here in Kakuma Refugee Camp. Life hasn't been worth living. We are brought forcefully with false promises, whereby we thought that when we come here,
I knew it was too good to be true. Oh, Julie's obviously just going to a different part of the camp to try and get a signal to come back on again. Go for it, Julie. You're on mute, lovely.
Okay. When we came to Kakuma Refugee Camp, we thought that everything was going to be fine, and we had high expectations. We thought that we are going to feel like we are loved, but that was all in vain. Since we were dumped here in Kakuma Refugee Camp, whereby we were in a homophobic place, we live with the homophobic people, and everyone in the camp is homophobic, including the police officers who are supposed to be taking care of us. We've been here facing many challenges, especially this small group at Block 13, which Sally has been standing in for us. We were many at the beginning, but because of too much discrimination and torture and everything bad happening to us, the continuous rapes, the attacks by homophobic, our fellow refugees, and every bad situation here, we have failed. We tried our level best to try to make awareness to the world to understand the situations we are going through here. By doing that, we had to make a lot of awareness. We had to go to the Facebook pages, tweets, and all that, but UNHCR and Kenyan government realized that we were trying to make awareness. That's the reason why Annemarie is no longer in the camp, because we were warned and we were told never to say anything, and we should sit and say nothing. That if we do anything like making more awareness, we are going to be imprisoned, and if falsely accused, maybe even to go to exile. So for the last 3 years, some of us, we are having children, but our children have never gone to school. because of the homophobic people we live in. The children are supposed to be sharing the schools with the people who don't want us, who don't want anything to do with us. We go through all bad situations in Kakuma. Actually, if you ask me, the one who want to describe Kakuma, I would say Kakuma is hell. It's not a place where by a human being is supposed to be living. We've lost lives here at Kakuma, Block 13. We've lost our comrades, our family who died with fire in the bombs, fire bombs. We've lost our people. We lost our baby who died because of the homophobic police officers who tear gassed us badly and beat us, and the children, the child got this kid died because of the homophobic people who are supposed to be taking care of us, but instead they are the ones who are torturing us. We don't get medical support here in the hospitals where they told us that we are supposed to be getting free services. Doctors who are supposed to be taking care of us, they are homophobic. They don't even take us like we are also human people. We are human beings who needs to be treated, you know. We are being discriminated even around in the markets where we buy food, even the nearby shops where we are supposed to buy the things like salt, soap, and that. We are rejected everywhere, including where we get water, where we are supposed to get the water points, because we share the water points with the people who don't like us. We have warnings, we get warnings most of the time. We are being beaten most of the time, and when we report to the police officers, what they say is to go and get those people who are insulting you and bring them to us, which we cannot do. You cannot get the person who don't like you, who wants you dead, and get him and take him to the police so that you can be worked on. I was one day insulted by a police officer, and he told me when I was insulted and I went there to report, and he told me that, why don't you people go and get married and nurse your children and your husbands instead of being here? Everyone don't like us in the Kakuma refugee camp. UNHCR, whenever we try to complain our cases, like we are being mistreated, we are being done everything, they don't care. They never care about us. And of recently, they announced that this camp is going to be closed. All of those stuffs are happening. When we try to ask what's happening, they never answer us, like, you know, like telling us what's going to happen, whether we are going to be here, whether we are going to be worked on, or whether we are going to do what, everything. We are just there in the, just stuck. We don't know what to do. And when we try to ask for permission, maybe if they can allow us to move out of this camp and maybe go and find safety somewhere else, they don't agree with that. We are like prisoners. We cannot walk, like go maybe somewhere whereby we thought we were going we are facing all this, and one day we decided to go and get out of this camp, and instead the police caught us and they threw us on the police patrols, and they beat us and told us that you are supposed to be here and we are not supposed to move or go anywhere.
Julia, I hate to interrupt you, because as always, what you speak, the truth that you speak is so powerful, but I'm sadly reminded of the time that we have, and we sadly don't have an awful lot of time. So I'm sure there may be some questions for you later, but if we could stop now and pass on to one of the other speakers. But as always, you know, our love and solidarity is with you, and thank you so much for speaking with us this evening. So if I could pass on to Alyssa and Adama to talk about your work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sally, and thank you, Philia, for organizing such an important event, and especially thank you, Juliet, for your testimony. It's always heartbreaking to listen to you, but it's very important that these voices are heard. So thank you for being here with us. So I'm Alyssa Ahrabare. I'm from the European Network of Migrant Women, and we are an organization that was formalized in 2012 with the aim to support, to visibilize, and to promote specific concerns and rights of migrant women at the European level. Since then, we have developed a strong political presence and advocacy. We have membership in 23 European countries, and we are representing uniqueness of the representation of women's global struggle for economic, political, and physical freedom. So ENOM is a space that is led by and for migrant, refugee, and ethnic minority women and girls. And we have the feminist vision to come together to find ground for collaborative work across our differences. The missions of our organizations, we try to build the capacity of our members to advocate so that we can help to shape social policies and design, and to design action programs to address migrant women's specific needs, including the women and girls that are most vulnerable, such as lesbian women, disabled women, underage girls, and such specific groups that we identified. In ENOM, we also conduct projects with the aim to fight for migrant women's human rights, anti-discrimination, access to health, access to justice, and freedom from male violence against women and girls. To go back to the specific topic of the event of tonight, and give some overview of the struggles that lesbian migrants in particular face in Europe. We know that lesbian women are discriminated as women who are same-sex attracted, and often on such intersecting grounds as disability, ethnicity, migrant status. Violence against lesbians is widespread, so it goes from femicide, corrective rape, forced marriage, denial of parental rights, and often girls who grew up to be lesbians are bullied for not conforming to stereotypes. And in our case, asylum claims of lesbians are also often dismissed as invalid for various reasons, including lesbophobia. New forms of lesbophobia have also emerged lately, namely in the queer community. We are witnessing unprecedented ideological backlash on the grounds of inclusivity. Lesbian women are sometimes being accused of having a genital fetish if they refuse to have sexual relationship with male individuals who identify as women. And this labeling of lesbianism as deviance or fetishism is reminiscent of religious reactionary discourses. And as a result, we have lesbian women, and especially young women, who are made to feel guilty if they do not accept sex with men, and they report being raped or sexually assaulted because of this. Lesbian women in Europe, lesbian migrant women in Europe face multiple challenges in accessing refugee status, and it particularly applies to Black lesbian women. So first of all, there is the issue of credibility or gathering of evidence, because Black lesbian women remain invisible within European asylum system. They are often not believed to be lesbians, particularly if they have been married with a man or if they have children, and if they lack long-term relationship with another woman. And often professionals in asylum sector do not understand that these women are made to marry men. They are forced married, and they are raped, and that's why they have children. So this is not being recognized. Also, the gender-based violence that they claim to have undergone is often deemed as not credible because concrete evidence is lacking and the details are difficult for the women to keep in mind because of psychotrauma due to the violence they undergone. So for the European Network of Migrant Women, it is very important that decision makers and practitioners receive training that allow them to acknowledge the ways in which lesbian women try to protect themselves in their everyday lives, which may include heterosexual marriages and the absence of any form of lesbian relationship. Moreover, they must acknowledge that trauma can lead to inconsistencies in the asylum narrative. Also, safe spaces must be provided to allow for lesbian women to fully disclose their claims during the asylum interview without being subjected to sex, race, and sexuality stereotypes. And finally, decision makers must further recognize the manner in which lesbians are victims of gender-based violence as recognized under the Istanbul Convention. So now I'm going to give the floor to Adama Siraleblé, who is the founder of Olympe. It's a grassroots organization in France working with asylum-seeking women, and Olympe is also a member of the European Network of Migrant Women. She will speak in French, and I will translate. I will do my best to be as precise as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Alyssa. Thank you, Philia. Thank you all. Merci. Sorry, I have to speak in French. Merci vraiment et surtout avec ce témoignage très touchant qui démontre vraiment la difficulté et la violence que subissent ce groupe de femmes, surtout ce groupe de femmes migrantes. Après vos interventions, elle, toi et tout, en fait, on retrouve vraiment toutes les difficultés pratiques. Donc, nous, dans notre quotidien, au fait, quand on reçoit ce genre de personnes, donc elles sont victimes de violences. Déjà, le fait d'être femme, le fait d'être migrante, le fait de venir dans notre pays et surtout africaine. Et c'est qu'on remarque tout d'abord, ce sont des femmes qui sont victimes de multiples violences. Donc, comme tu viens de le dire, elles sont déviantes en général. Quand elles expriment leur désir ou leur orientation sexuelle dans au niveau de leur pays, on les prend pour des déviantes ou bien des déficientes mentales. Et le plus souvent, ce sont les femmes qui sont mariées très jeunes, donc victimes de mariages précoces et aussi victimes de mariages forcés et de polygamie en général. Donc, pour les sanctionner, on les met de côté. Et le plus souvent aussi, ce sont des femmes qui ont des enfants très, très tôt et qui a toutes les difficultés justement déjà marier enfants et avoir des enfants et pouvoir assumer tout cela. Et au niveau de la communauté aussi, pardon.
I'm going to translate.
Sorry.
Adama thanks us, thank you, Philia, and also Juliet for the testimony. And she says it illustrates perfectly the violence that the group of lesbian migrant women undergo. She says that lesbian women are at the intersection of different oppressions and different violence when they arrive in a foreign country such as France. And in their home country, when they talk about their sexuality, they are often deemed as mentally unstable, crazy, or deviant, and that's why they are punished through child marriage, forced marriage, also polygamy. It's also a group that have a lot of children very young. So these are all forms of violences that act as a punishment for something that is considered a deviance. Tu peux continuer.
Et après aussi, ce sont des groupes de femmes qui sont sujettes beaucoup au trafic d'êtres humains. Donc, parfois comme rejetées par la communauté, par la famille. Donc, le plus souvent, elles tombent facilement dans les groupes de proxénètes. Donc, quand elles arrivent ici, dans leur parcours migratoire, elles subissent aussi toutes les formes de violence qu'on vient de décrire. Et une fois sur place, la difficulté, déjà, elles sont forcées au silence dans le pays d'origine. Et quand elles arrivent pour faire reconnaître leur statut de victime est très difficile parce qu'il y a la difficulté de preuve, d'autant que le plus souvent, elles ont des enfants. Et du coup, nous, ce travail, il est assez compliqué et assez complexe. Et c'est des femmes qui vivent d'énormes traumatismes et qui ont aussi une difficulté à avoir une relation de confiance avec les autres personnes qui puissent les accompagner. Le plus souvent, ce type de public, nous travaillons souvent avec des psychologues qui accompagnent ces personnes et on travaille en binôme donc, pour pouvoir sortir le récit de ces femmes. Et c'est un suivi qui est beaucoup plus long, beaucoup plus complexe que traditionnellement par rapport aux autres femmes migrantes.
So this is also a group that is very targeted by trafficking because there is a reject. These women are rejected from their families and their communities, so they're isolated and therefore they are targeted by pimps. Once they arrive in the host country, they are silenced and it's very hard to have their victim status recognized, especially regarding the lack of evidence. It's also very difficult because these women undergo a lot of trauma and they have trouble trusting people, even organizations that are meant to help them. So that's why OLAMP organization works with psychologists and with both psychologists and jurists, legal experts, to enable these women to give their story, to tell their story, and then to help them get the refugee status.
Du coup, au niveau de on rencontre aussi avec les femmes lesbiennes une difficulté parce que leur récit est assez complexe pour pouvoir le confier. Du coup, elles arrivent le plus souvent en dehors des délais légaux de procédure d'asile. Et le plus souvent, pareil aussi, elles sont victimes d'une demande accélérée, donc qui n'est pas très profitable en matière de protection des demandeurs d'asile. Donc, il faut vraiment une formation de toutes les personnes qui peuvent être touchées par cette problématique pour comprendre aussi cette spécificité de violence qui est si particulière par rapport au nombre de violences que toutes les femmes subissent, notamment les femmes migrantes. Et donc, il faut être très attentif et être vraiment formé par rapport à ce type de violence. Donc, nous, les accompagnements de ces personnes, c'est assez complexe, mais on utilise le droit en argumentant aussi à l'appui si jamais elles sont en dehors des procédures légales. Par exemple, pour faire une demande d'asile en France, il te faut 4 mois. Autrement, c'est une procédure accélérée avec un juge unique, donc avec beaucoup de droits qui sont rejetés. Donc, il faut arriver à démontrer et à argumenter et à demander à ce que ces procédures rentrent dans des procédures normales. En général, on y arrive, mais vraiment, c'est à compte-gouttes, mais c'est un travail qui est très, très complexe.
So with lesbian women, migrant women, there is also a specific difficulty because since it's very hard due to trauma and specific forms of violence to give the life story during the asylum procedure. Sometimes the delays are passed, and then there is something in France that is called it's a fast procedure, but in this context the rights of the women are less protected. So in her organization, Adama is always trying to use legal arguments to convince the judge to hear the woman in the normal procedure where all of her rights are protected. Most of the time they succeed, but it's a struggle because they face many different barriers, including the fact that these women face very specific violence and therefore professionals need to be trained to understand properly what they go through.
Could we just have a last word from Adama before we pass over to Maggie? Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Adama, tu veux conclure?
Ah oui, ok. Alors, la conclusion, c'est que des événements comme aujourd'hui, ce sont des événements très importants. Je pense qu'il faut sensibiliser le maximum de personnes autour de cette spécificité de violence au niveau des femmes et surtout des femmes migrantes. Les homosexuels, c'est une violence qui est très, très peu connue, très peu entendue, donc il faut vraiment vulgariser cela. Elles ont des droits de pouvoir faire progresser aussi les législations.
The key message that she wants to pass is that events such as this one today are very important because there is a complete lack of awareness about lesbian women's situations and the violence that they undergo and their rights. All women have rights, including migrant lesbian women, and they need to be protected, and therefore we need to speak about it and to raise awareness about this, and people need to be properly trained. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you both so much, and thank you for all the work that you do to support women. Okay, I'll pass over to you, Maggy. Thank you.
Thank you, Philly. Thank you, Sally. Thank you, everyone. As Sally said and introduced me, my name is Maggy. I work for Right to Remain, and I'm a coordinator for this Wars Must Fall campaign in Manchester and in Liverpool. I volunteer with Philia. I volunteer with Lesbian and Immigration Support Group in Manchester. I volunteer with Manchester Rape Crisis, and also Raw Zimbabwe, which is a restoration of human rights in Zimbabwe, where we fight for human rights of women and children as well. Thank you for this lovely opportunity. And I'm not going to go back to what the women have said. I think they have covered it all. And that is the main reason why you, especially British people, you see African women in our country. And it's only the term that is being used, that we are an influx of people. We are coming there to invade the country. We are coming for resources, we're coming there for NHS. But with what Kakuma women have said, I think each and every one of you have a better understanding why there are refugees in many different privileged countries. It's not an option. It's not something that somebody just wake up in the morning and decide, you know what, I'm going to such a country. It's because of the circumstances that makes you to leave your family, your loved ones, your culture, and your religion to protect your life, to fight for your life. So I'm one of the women that have experienced that hardship as well. And what I would love to say to my women out there in Kakuma Camp, it's Refugee Week. I am a refugee ambassador for 2022. And our topic this year is healing. And for me, healing during those years while I was struggling in the UK was that I was using my pain to support other women. I was using my pain to suppress my own pain. So when I was going around looking for support in other local organizations, I found women who were less privileged than me, who could speak little English, who could understand how the system works. I was better because I could communicate, I could ask for bread, I could ask for pads. There are some women who could not even say a word. So I was using that at the time when I was fighting my case, that I'll be able to translate to some women that know this is what they're saying, this is what they're saying. I'll take some women to a court, I'll go with some women to their GP for medical checkup. In the process, I was healing. So while you're in that situation, while you're in that system, just find something that will keep your mind going, because the system in the UK is used to suppress us, is used to depress us. At the end of the day, when they're giving you that refugee status, you will be useless, you will be nothing, because you'll be only relying on medication. So on what I was going through, I felt that I was going to a place of safety, as many of those women in Kakuma Camp. I think in their situation, they don't care where they can go. They don't care where they will be taken to. All they're looking for is a place where they'll find more friendly, more accommodating. But most of the times, if you're having people that are helping you, they will not tell you that we are taking you to France, we are taking you to UK, we are taking you to Canada. It's whatever that comes your way that you feel it's much better than in a situation where you are at the moment. So that was the situation as well. And in your mind, you'll be feeling like, I'm going to a better place, I'm going to start over. It doesn't matter of the pain that I felt all the years, now I'm going to a better place. So when they got to Kenya, they felt that that was the best and safe place, you know, and it works with your mind as well. It affects you as well when you get to a place where you are being treated worse than where you're coming from. Those are the very same challenges that you are experiencing in UK with the women who are seeking asylum. We have so many that are homeless that we are helping. We have so many that don't have food, who don't have a place to stay, simply because of credibility issues. Home Office have got this a tendency of refusing everything that you'll be telling them about your story, about your challenges, about the struggles that you might have suffered back home. We have lesbian women, we have bisexual women, we have trans women, we have all kinds of women who are fighting for their sexuality. You have to go through to deeper corners where you have to explain your sexuality. You have to take out gross evidence that will disregard your humanity as a woman. You have to trade that for that piece of paper. So that is what women are going through here in the UK. And there's this thing of, in my case, as I'm talking right now, I'm not in the UK, I'm somewhere trying to meet my daughter because we've been fighting to be reunited. The process has been very exhausting, have been so traumatizing for both of us. I left home when she was 6. She is 12 now. So when I had to make arrangements that I go and travel to meet them in South Africa, where compared to where I come from, just to see her, because now I was now working, I could buy her things. And one day she said to me, you know what, I just want a hug from you. I know you can buy this for me, but I just want a hug. So it's those things that when the judges and Home Office are deciding, they forget that we are human beings, we are people. Even now, it's so difficult. We are just two strangers in a room. If my mom is not there, there is no communication. She can't talk to me. She can't ask me things. I don't know what she likes. I missed her first day at school. I missed so many things. We are just totally straight. I'm trying by all means, but it's so difficult and it's so painful. But I'm still fighting. So that is why I'm saying to my women, we are fighting and we all have scars that we have not opened to people. I have so many organizations that I'm supporting. They don't know my story. This story that I'm sharing with you today, I'm still doing some things over Zoom, and they're thinking I'm in UK. I'm still struggling. I'm still fighting. And working with Right to Remain, we have this issue now of Rwanda, where people are being taken to Rwanda. How can you take somebody to a homophobic country? Rwanda is a homophobic country, just as good as Kenya. We don't have any African country that is accommodating to either lesbian or bisexual women. We don't have nothing or whatsoever. So we campaigned against this when it was still Nationality and Borders Bill. We were fighting, we were campaigning, we were looking for advocates. We tried our best, we didn't win. And now with the Rwanda issue, we fought very hard. We did our petitions, we campaigned, and the first flight has been halted. We are still fighting. So if you go on our pages, we're still fighting, we're still asking for solidarity, because if such laws, they prevail and they're accepted and they're used in UK, all the Kakuma women, they'll remain there. We will never be able to rescue them, because the first country that they seek asylum and they're granted refugee status, regardless of the factors and the circumstances that are around them, is regarded as a safe country. They will never be allowed to claim refugee elsewhere. That is the reason why we are fighting so hard in the UK, because UK is very influential to African countries, especially when it comes to human rights laws. So that's where I had to understand the campaigning policies, especially when it comes to human rights and asylum, because I know that they have so much influence. Whatever they say, if it starts with them, then it's going to spread to African countries. We are not going to get that protection. We are going to be abused. All other women that are left in other African countries, they will never get that protection, because already with UK, the human rights protection has been taken off. It's a war with the solicitors that are helping us, with the women that we are helping in the UK. They cannot take their cases because they're feeling that if they lose, they need to pay. And with amount of evidence that they need, if, for instance, when somebody is coming to seek asylum in UK, they need to explain everything that happened to them. You cannot do that if we had a traumatic past, and especially on the journey. Our journeys were not easy. Our journeys were very traumatic, and we're being abused as well on our journeys to the UK, on our journeys to the US, we were being like used, like, okay, if I'm going to take you from point A to point B, you have to allow me to touch your breast. If you're going from point B to point C, you have to do this for me. It's strangers. It's a matter of life or death. And you've got nothing in your pocket. You don't have a penny. So you have to use what you have because of the circumstances that you are in. So same as the women that are all over the world that are going through a lot of persecution in their countries. There is no safe journey. That is why we are fighting so hard as Right to Remain about the Rwanda. I think there is no safe journey for anyone who is running away and who is in fear of being persecuted. So we continue to ask you, for those who are privileged in the UK, in the US, in Canada, to use those privileges to fight for these women, to fight for us, to fight for these policies to change. We have platforms where we share our stories. Before, women used to be timid and shy, but we realized that if we hold back and we don't tell the world exactly what we're going through, then there will be no change, there will be no difference. So we have platforms where we train women, we speak to them, we tell them what to say and what not to say that can affect them, but there is power in them telling their stories. And then there is power in you who have privileges to come in front and take the bullet and fight for us, because they're not going to deport you to anywhere. You are British, you are Canada's, you are US, they're not going to take you anywhere. You have to stand in front and say, we are working with these women. We've had these stories one-to-one. We have evidence. We have videos of women in Kakuma, and this is what we are demanding, you know. So there is powerful in that unity. That's why we continue to ask for solidarity. I'm here. I'm going to meet some of the women in South Africa who are South Africans, who are in the UK, who will never see their families. I'm going to meet their families. My wish was to go as wherever I could go, but I can't. I've been called back to UK in court next 2 weeks' time for my daughter's family reunion. Unfortunately, I'll leave her. I'm not going to go back with her. Hopefully by Christmas time, I'll be with her. Thank you.
Maggie, thank you so much. It shames me the way the UK treats refugees. And I remember when we met in Manchester, it was a real eye-opener for me. There were so many things, so many practices I had no idea that our government was doing in our name, and it is just appalling. And as much as we stand with our sisters in Kakuma and fight to get them safe, we stand with you as well, and all the sisters that you're working with. But I'll give final words now to Annemarie, speaking from Nairobi. I think Annie's going to leave her camera off because she's having some internet problems, but will benefit just from hearing her words, I'm absolutely sure. So thank you very much, Maggie, and I'll pass over to you, Annemarie.
Thank you, Sally, so much. Thank you so much for all the people who have shared information with us. Thank you, everyone who is here. It really means a lot. My name is Nalugwa Josephine Annemarie, a lesbian from Uganda, an asylum seeker in Kenya, part of Block 13, but right now I'm living in Nairobi. I'm a human rights defender. Where should I start? Running from Kakuma to Nairobi, actually, I thought maybe to some extent it will be a solution, but unfortunately it's not. Being here, it's not, because I'm still staying in the same country where homophobic people still do exist, and on a bigger basis. You keep in hiding, of course. You can't make friends. You can't do anything, because the UNHCR itself told me you're in Nairobi at your own risk, because if the police arrests you, that is not our problem. So getting such an answer from people you expect that they are going to help you, it's really disappointing and devastating, because I thought they'll be able to help me out, but that is the response they gave me. So I have to keep myself safe to not get imprisoned, because I know I'm not going to get help from anyone. These are some of the challenges that we do face. As Juliet said, if you come out to say anything, that is a crime. Even them themselves, they are not safe in the camp. They cannot say anything. People still get attacked. Women still get assaulted, but they can't say a word. They have to keep quiet because the police intimidated them. It is not safe like for us to keep here in Kenya. I just wish, wishing something like that. If organizations can come out, because even LGBTQ organizations, they have not come out to help us, be it international, be it local, they have not come out to help, but they hear our cries because we've been campaigning. There are some people like international people. We thank Philia, by the way, because it is one of the first organizations that came in when they heard our cry, and they have been with us for years now. They listened to our cry, but we thought more of the organizations will come out to help. They'll come out to support us. They'll come out to stand with us. But we were just ignored. I don't know why, but we were ignored. A lot was going on, even with evidences, you know, but people seemed not to care. It looked like it's not a situation, you know, but I just hope we can get organizations that can be able to put up some sponsoring strategies to help us, because to be honest, we are mentally, physically, psychologically broken. There are times when you feel like you want even to give up. Like you see that maybe losing a life, you yourself maybe losing your life can be a solution than being in a situation, being in that struggle, being in suffering for the years which you even don't know, because we don't know for how long we are going to suffer. They talked about closing the camp in this month. We don't know really which day it is going to happen. But no response from the UNHCR, even though you send emails, even though you call them, it's like they don't care. And then the UNHCR sent out a statement saying that we, the refugees, we are supposed to appreciate Kenya because for now it's the only country that can accept LGBTQ people, which is not true. People don't know what is really happening. We are suffering. We are. But it's like they want to cover it. But we are facing problems. We are being challenged. Homophobic is going on, even because they tell you go to the police and report, but the police are also homophobic. Juliet has told you how she was, what response she got. Why doesn't she go and get married? Can you give that response to a woman who has been assaulted? Really? You can't. But it means our lives we are not precious. Like we don't even deserve to live, because that is what the police told us, that if you came here, it means we are just helping you to stay. Otherwise, you're not supposed to be here if you're LGBTQ people. There is a certain police guy who said that if I had the authority, I would have killed all of you because you're LGBTQ people. We don't accept LGBTQ people here. But we came from our countries thinking that at least here we will be a bit safe. But we are really suffering. Our lives are like, we are doomed. We don't even know what our future is holding for us. We don't know what your tomorrow will be. Maybe you're moving around outside and then you will get a problem and all that, because I've ever got warning messages on my phone. They warn me that I need to keep quiet, like they intimidate me. And when I reported, nothing came out. They just ignored it. We are still facing this. If I just hope if this can be, at least we get some organizations that can get some sponsoring strategies, or some influential women who can help us, who can raise a voice to sponsorships. Yes, maybe it's not that easy to sponsor someone. Yeah, I understand. But at least 1, 2, 3, slowly, we can save lives. But dear sisters, honestly, lives are going to be lost. Mentally, we are really traumatized. A lot has happened to us. Stories which are really painful. You sit and think and say, really, do I deserve to live, or should I just end it there so that I can't suffer more? People in the camp, nothing is going on. They're suffering every single day. They are mothers, but their children's lives are doomed. Yes, I understand our dear sisters from Germany, from the US, from UK, they helped to build up a school. Yes, I understand. But still, these kids need they need that life, that they need to be free. They need to be happy. They need to be cared of as children. But in the camp, that is very impossible. They can't have that. They can't have that love because they are surrounded by hate. I just wish we can be helped. Thank you so much.
Annemarie, thank you so much. As always, you speak so passionately and so powerfully. And you know, we wish, as always, there was more that we could do. I'm aware we've got just a few minutes left, but Gemma, were there any questions in the chat that we could put to any of our speakers from tonight?
Yeah, we had one question from Linus, who was asking, what can Alyssa's organization do for Block 13?
Alyssa.
Well, that's an excellent question, and we've been trying to support Filia, who's been following the women from Block 13 for years. They have not now gathered a lot of evidence, and we've been trying in the network. We always try to work in collaboration with other organizations, because we feel like this is the most efficient way to do things. So we've been working with European Women's Lawyer Association that helped us in the past when we helped evacuate Afghan women after the Taliban took the country. So far, it's been a struggle, honestly. We've been contacting different governments without success. We've been trying to reach out to the UN in Geneva without success so far. So we keep trying. Basically, we're knocking on doors. We're trying to use our network to visibilize this issue and to try to find allies to acknowledge the situation, the terrible situation in Kakuma camp, and to help the women who needs it. And if anyone has, you know, any idea on how to proceed, we are happy to listen to them and to do whatever we can.
Thanks, Alyssa. And as we said, one of our central aims is amplifying the voices of women. And in some ways, we've been able to do that tonight. But what I'd say to all of you that are listening and to share with your friends and your networks is it's all our voices that we need, because yes, we've knocked on the door of UNCR and not been heard. But the more of us that knock and the more of us that keep knocking, the more difficult it is to ignore us. So we have to persevere and we have to keep on and make them pay attention, because we heard yesterday that Kakuma Refugee Camp has been renamed now Kakuma Settling Area. Now what that means is that the Kenyan government is taking more control than UNHCR. This is the homophobic government that we've been talking about this evening. So it really is a matter of urgency that we get these women to safety. They will not be safe in the camp if it is the Kenyan government. that's been in charge. UNHCR has been woefully inadequate, but at least there's been some international law there to support them. If it's taken over completely by Kenya, that really does leave them with little or no protection. So please do look at our campaign pack, look at all the things you can do to get involved. Donations are wonderful and they do help to make life a little bit more bearable day to day, but also donations won't get them free and won't get them out of there unless you can persuade organisations, wealthy benefactors, to give substantial donations that will help us pay for sponsorship for a few women. Were there any more questions, Gemma?
Yeah, we just had a couple more come in. So we've got Mandy asking, for Juliet and the Kakuma women, what is the most important thing we need to do to help you?
Right now, I think if there is anything you can do for us is to try to get us out of this camp, because we don't know right now all the arrangements for UNHCR and Kenyan government. We are not mentioned anywhere. They promise when we try to ask for RSDs to be recognized as refugees, they're not giving it to us. So we don't know. In this way, we are stuck, because if there is any way you can do to get at least one of us in when it's not through UNHCR, maybe it can work for us. What we need is maybe private sponsorship. At least it might not be everywhere, all the group, but one by one, maybe it can work slowly by slowly, maybe. And also contacting your embassies in your respective embassies for every one of you. I know you don't come from one country, maybe also for the embassies to connect with the government, and maybe it can be also helpful for us.
Thanks, Julie. Any other questions, Gemma?
I think got another question from Linus asking, should we have a delegation to Geneva?
I'm kind of in favour of it, yes. Alyssa, Adama, I don't know what you think about if they won't take our calls and if they won't answer our emails, perhaps we ought to just go to their doorsteps and make them hear us. And, you know, I would say that's an open invitation for anyone that wants to join us as well.
Yeah, we've actually been discussing this option, and I think if or when we are to do this, we have to strategize on how to make it impactful. So how to contact the media, how to make it big, you know, maybe organize some kind of happening in front of the UN. So we are welcoming, of course, all ideas regarding that. And I think that's also the purpose of such an event, is to get also the creativity and the motivation from all of you. So please don't hesitate to share if you have any idea.
Any more, Gemma? I'm aware we're just on 7 o'clock. So
I know. So we've got a question asking, how does private sponsorship work? And also, how can we help the Kakuma refugees get refugee status?
I don't know who'd like to take that one.
Thank you very much for the questions. With this, there is need for a very, very powerful campaign to force the UNHCR and the Kenyan government, because these two work hand in hand. It should be a very powerful campaign, because they are not ready to agree to this. As we've told you that, like they take us, you know, they don't even recognize us. So there is need for a very powerful campaign for this. If there is any opportunity to get even influential people to push for this, because the UNHCR is something, it's this hard organization to convince, honestly, because if it's there, like if you talk and then leave it there, they'll tell you that, yes, we are going to work on these people. We've been in this campaign, we've been pushing for this since 2020, but still till today. People are in 4 years, 5 years, and you're not yet recognized as a refugee. There is need for a very powerful campaign to push for this.
Thanks, Annemarie. Maggie, I think you had your hand up as well.
Yeah, I was going to comment on private sponsorship, that sometimes, especially if it's on a public platform like this,
We're losing you, Maggie. I think while Maggie's having a problem, Juliet, you had your hand up as well. Did you want to say something?
difficult to discuss such issues in these conversations. Can you hear me?
We just caught the end of it, Maggie. We'll miss the middle bit. Well, the internet's lasted longer than I thought it might do, so we haven't done too bad. Jan, yeah, do you want to say something? And then I think we will have to tie this up and finish for this evening. But Jan, what was your question?
Thank you. Just a quick question also to thank you all for being there and sharing with us. Is it possible to put Alyssa and Adama's organization names in the chat? Please.
Yes, I'm going to do that now.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you, Alyssa. Well, it's just gone 7 o'clock and we do like to finish on time, although I also feel we could continue for hours because the stories are so powerful and, you know, we want for sure to get you all on board to support and help. But for now, I'd like to say a huge thanks to all of our speakers, the time they've given, but also, you know, the power of the personal stories. And to be honest with you, I really hate the fact that we sometimes have to hear and they have to share some very personal details. It shouldn't come to that. No woman should have to do that to get basic support and safety. But sadly, what we've learned with this case and with UNHCR is we need to get the realism of what's happening in Kakuma out and for people to recognise that, for them to act. So huge thanks to Julie and to Annemarie from Kakuma Refugee Camp. Thank you to Alyssa and Adama for joining us tonight and sharing your wisdom. Thank you, Maggie. As always, it's great to hear from you. You speak so powerfully. I'd like to thank Gemma for helping us with the tech tonight and Josie for setting up the Zoom meeting and all of our sisters at Filia that work to support the Kakuma campaign. Obviously, all of you for joining us, but please don't make this an interesting hour one evening when you heard about something that was happening in Kenya. Make this the start of you doing something about it, where whatever it is that you have time, space, or funds to do, have a look at our campaign pack. If it's sending an email, if it's getting in touch with your embassy, the UNHCR, etc. If you're able to donate some money, that's great too. If you're able to do more and run campaigns locally or want to get involved with us at Filia to do more and to do actions like possibly in Geneva, please do get into contact. We'd love to hear from you. One day, what I want to do is to hug my sisters in Kakuma face to face, because we've got them safe and we've got them free. And that is the only time that we stop campaigning. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. And I hope it's given you some new information, and I hope we continue to see you involved. Lots of love from everyone here at Filia. Thank you.